There we are. Try the words globalization, interdependence, etc. And my thought is, if you look at this in detail, with specificity, just as you will do in your field, with specificity in what's going on in the courts, you will see what is happening. And to say in such cases that you have to look abroad has nothing to do with the philosophy of a judge. It has nothing to do with an individual. It has nothing to do with what kind of politics is getting involved, his country's getting involved in. It has everything to do with the world. That is what the world is like now. Environment, terrorism, commerce, civil rights, marriage, you name it. There it is. And so I want to show people, you too, and you will show us, what is this world like? So we can answer Fabrice Del Dongo's question a little bit with facts, because we have the facts here, we have similar values here, and then our big problem is what kind of institutions do we build to help solve, through law, the kinds of problems that this world, which throws up all these facts, puts in front of us. All right, end of commercial. Thank you.
It's pretty hard to interrupt and cut a Supreme Court justice off. Thank you.
It's great to be with all of you, and thank you, Coach, and the Institute, and Amy, and you guys. So I heard a cool word that your generation is being called the centennials. Sometimes Generation Z, but I love centennials. And one of the things that people are talking about centennials is how digitally connected you guys are with each other, and how the focus of this particular generation is really about getting along with each other, and what they're going to do in the world, and the passion that every generation has. But what you all have is the internet, and the internet is not really a whole bunch of wires and digital things. It's just us connected. And so there's a different world that can emerge. We've always been connected in different ways, but this new way of being sort of present with each other. And so it really gives us an opportunity to use those tools and those assets to really work with each other in new ways. And so the president created the CTO job, and Anish and Todd and myself. The job is an interesting job. It's an advisory disruptor kind of entrepreneur job. And it's how do you help the president and his team harness this power of data, innovation, technology on behalf of the American people and the world. And a lot of times when I think about it, and we've thought about it, is it's really about unlocking talent. Because if the talent was unlocked to do what it passionately would want to do, and how people would collaborate on all the complex topics that you were just talking about, it's really in answering these, we're going to do them together. People are interested in different things. And if you can unlock the talent and passion of a person to do what they're interested in, across 7 billion plus people, we're going to fix a lot of stuff together. And so how is it that we can use this to really recognize the talent at that level? And a big part about tech, I think, is a lot about confidence. There's an odd stereotype that we have, that there's technical people and not technical people. And we say it all day. When you graduate from high school, you hear people, they would never say, oh yeah, reading and writing, that wasn't my thing. But they say all day, math and science, it wasn't my thing. We really need everyone to have mastery of all the tools in the universe, and you may not choose them, but our school systems ask everyone to take freshman biology typically, not because they want all of us to be biologists, but we all need to understand systems and biological systems in order to understand our own health, understand what we need to do for our family, what we need to do for our world. So in the same way, coding, which you guys are learning, is something the president has really been thinking about. We started Computer Science for All, and today we just announced more Tech Hire cities. Tech Hire is an incredible program that we notice people using short-coded boot camps to bring people in just 12 weeks. From one example in New York City, a $10 an hour truck driving job into an $85,000 a year tech job. 22 weeks. So how do you accelerate people into that? Now we have 70 cities doing that. So it's really sort of the things that we're working a lot on are sort of ecosystem thinking and capacity building in our own government. And we've just had, we just helped host, our Mexican colleagues are here, colleagues who are doing digital government work all over the world. It's so fun to be here with the PIPs because the Presidential Innovation Fellows represent this new Washingtonian who are the digital techies showing up. It's not like this is new. President Washington started the Army Corps of Engineers before the founding of the country, and President Lincoln got the telegraph, and people have been doing technical things. We've been to the moon. For a long time, it's always part of our government, but this new digital part of us has been slower in coming into government and into nonprofit, into sort of the public sector. And it's the beginning of that, and it's happening all around the world. The Estonians are the furthest ahead. The most digital government in the world, and it's extraordinary. And the World Bank shared a piece with their 2015 report. Their annual report is called Digital Dividends. And it's about what happens in a country that they studied, several countries who are ahead, where you don't just do the tech things with your NASA and your National Institute of Health and those who are ahead in tech, but you do technical things and digital things and inclusion things with the Department of Labor, which I love to call the Department of Talent. And you do with the Housing and Urban Development, and with the groups that are sort of usually the last to tech. What if you lift them sooner? That's a huge part of what we're up to. So it's been extraordinary to come to DC. I got to give the MIT commencement 2 years ago, and I told them, you got to go two places as techies. You got to go where there's tons of us. You advance the field, it's crazy, that's Silicon Valley, that's Boston, that's Austin, it's increasingly here in DC too. But you also have to go where you're rare, which is what we're experiencing as the technical folks who have come into government with this president. We have over 400 people who've come, who built Amazon and Facebook and Google and Twitter and Dropbox. They didn't know they had a seat. The president made a seat for them. It's not like they know better or worse or whatever. They just know something to add to the architecture of the economist, the lawyer, the techie, the operator, the communicator. So we want to play with the whole orchestra and not leave out the brass, right? We want to have the whole orchestra, and that's what we really want for our children. We want them to have critical thinking and computational thinking. So that's what we've been really driving for, and we've gotten to do extraordinary things with the president, both in capacity building, with now the Presidential Innovation Fellows who build AT&F and tech transformation, the United States Digital Service, which we've built, and we don't run these things, we capacity build them and get them out into government. Now we're working on data science with DJ. We have a data science cabinet, because it's cool to be in a cabinet. So there's people who are incredible at data science, like NASA and others, and those who have more PDF that they're publishing in, and quant, and amazing economists, but we want them to learn data science. So capacity building peer-to-peer. My favorite work that team in data science is doing is around justice. And we found that there were places, we call it scout and scale, like the venture capitalists do. They don't make Twitter or something, they go look for it. And then they come up underneath those entrepreneurs. There's incredible people all around the world and this country who've already solved almost everything we're trying to solve. So how do we find them? And how do we then bring them forward? We've done some network and justice, and we talk more about that. So it's great to be here. Thank you.
So now we're going to do this evening, because really Megan is a part of the executive branch, and the justice is part of the judicial branch. They're really not supposed to have conversations in a semi-public platform. So we're really not going to have a conversation. Believe me, we did a lot of finessing and tiptoeing around to get this to happen and to make everybody happy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Justice Breyer a question, and then I'll ask Megan a question, and then I'll call on some of you to ask a question. But if I ask Justice Breyer a question, Megan's not going to comment on his answer. Okay, so at least not right here. So Justice Breyer, let me ask you, tell us a little bit what it's like to operate with 8 Supreme Court justices.
Well, first of all, it's fine if you comment. I don't mind. I only have to watch what I say.
Well, you're 10.
That's the advice my father gave me. That's the advice he gave me. If you'd like it, I might as well give it to you. He gave it to me before he died. His single advice was stay on the payroll. But we normally have 9 justices, but that has not been true in the entire history of the court. It started out with 6. And for a number of years, there were just 6. And then during the Civil War period, for a while, there were 10. And then they went down to 7, and then they went back up to 9. I mean, so it's floated around, and Congress has some power to decide what it is. With 8 people, the risk is that we'll split 4-4. And that happens some of the time, but not too often. The reason we take a case, typically, is because the lower courts have come to different conclusions on the same question of federal law. That is, what judges do is they take some words. The words are in a statute or the Constitution. And if 2 or more judges in the lower courts have taken the same words in the same place and applied them differently, then we're in business. That doesn't happen all that often. We probably have 70 to 80 cases a year. And there are millions in the courts, probably hundreds of thousands or so, that involve federal law, Congress, and the Constitution. So of these 70 or 80 cases, when we decide them, they're tough cases. Good judges have come to opposite conclusions. Well, probably half the cases we decide during the year were unanimous. You wouldn't know that necessarily from the newspaper, but it's true. And of the 5-4 decisions, which they like to write about, because sometimes there's some political content or social content that you get, are about 20%. Not the same 5 and not the same 4. In many of the times. But what you will get in the paper is quite often they write what their readers want to read. And they would not be in business if they didn't do that. So it's much more, we're much more uncertain than you might think. All right, of the 70 cases, Nino Scalia was a good friend. We all get along very well. We're good friends. And I've never heard a word in that conference room raised in anger. Never. Never heard a voice raised in anger. Never heard one judge say something insulting of another. 22 years. Never. And we all got along. Nino, I miss him a lot, and so do other people. He was fun. And the fact that we disagreed on some things, well, then we do. So what? So he died in February. From February to the end of our term, at the end of June, we were 4-4 and thus couldn't decide the case. 4 times. On 2 issues that were probably front page issues. And on 2 issues that they wouldn't even write about, they're so technical. And that's the situation. Okay, so what happens if we're 4-4? It's as if we never heard the case. And whatever, it just goes on without us. So you can make up your own judgments. I'm not going to characterize that. It's obvious that the longer the time we got 8 members, the more of those cases there will be. And they're real. Now, if you want to comment on that.
I don't want to get into trouble. So, Megan, let me ask you, what technological trends in the future coming up do you see that will improve people's lives?
I think the one that you were talking about, the books and things, I think machine learning and AI is going to be extraordinary. We were just lucky to have host a series of conversations for the president, and that ties in the data collection, so Internet of Things and all of the pieces, sort of the sensors that are out there and what we have. But we were able to host a series of conversations out in Washington about AI and machine learning around policy and law, with Carnegie Mellon around safety and controls, with in New York City around economic issues and jobs and the effect there, here in Washington about AI for good and the use of machine learning, artificial intelligence for things like environmental protection and conservation of wildlife, for great breakthroughs around health, surgery scheduling, amazing things that people are using this for. And so a range of different things. And I think that, you were talking a little bit about regulation. Just being able to add machine readable content, to all these regs and this huge corpus of content and parse it in different ways and use ourselves, the crowd, to then come back and say, how should we regulate or deregulate ourselves and how might we have comments there? I mean, there's just so much great work that we can do using this stuff. At the same time, today, most of the people who are working on these things is one group of people. So primarily white men who have a computer science degree and a few other people. And so there's lots of people on the planet, and so what one group chooses to work on might be what a different group chooses a different topic. And so we're not sort of using the breadth of what you guys would choose to solve, what anyone in this room might solve with those tools. So that's the area that I'm really excited about is as we broaden this, you know, what will we use these incredible things for? Back in the commercial side, one of the things we did was using all the European patents, Michelle here, the corpus of content in all the European patents to allow a machine to learn how to translate. So you have the entire body of patents, so this patent's in French and German and Spanish, and so the machine algorithm can use that times all the patents to learn what words are related to what other words and create things like translating. So there's really extraordinary tools and things that we can use to really improve our lives, but at the same time there's great challenges around what do we want to use this stuff and what we don't want to use this stuff for, and so we want to have that conversation with people who are highly informed and come to that conclusion. So I'm pretty excited about what we might be able to do to really improve. You know, could you, with the Department of Labor's data, get everyone in this country and in the world a job that they would love? You know, that would be a great thing to do. I'd love to work on that.